All right, so 9:01. Thank you, everybody that is here so far. I'm pretty sure that people will continue to join as we go through, but of course we need to keep the schedule. So for everybody who is here today, I would like to say thank you first and foremost. Today's InsurTech Breakfast is very special for us. Today we have Andrea Girasole with us. He's an entrepreneur, CEO, and co-founder of Billte. And he's here today to share with us his story on how he took different approaches to achieve success. So every turn, every opportunity was a key factor for him on building his brand and understanding his customer. So Hits and the InsurTech Breakfast is beyond happy and proud to have him today. We work together with you daily at the garage, and we are very fond of your character, sense of humor, and passion for your work. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Andrea Girasole.
Thank
you. Just one thing to mention before, we will record the meeting.
Yes.
So if everyone is not agree, sorry, he has to say now, or he has to just turn off the camera, then it's not visible. And yeah, we will share it on social media. We get a lot of demands that we can share the meetings.
Yeah, people really like to hear this recordings afterwards, because of course for the schedules or the time zone difference, we recorded for everybody that could not make it. So if you guys have a problem with the camera, just turn it off and enjoy the conversation.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thanks a lot for this invitation. My story is a bit particular because I come from an entrepreneurial family in a completely different field. My family actually always been an entrepreneur in.
But Helen will also. I mean, she will not.
Sorry, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you.
She will not race with everyone.
I'm going to mute everybody. So.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. All right.
Andrea has to unmute himself.
Yes. Andrea?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, fantastic. So yes, going back to my story, I come from an entrepreneurial family. My parents were always involved in hotel and clubs and restaurants, and I actually never wanted to follow their path because I knew how hard it is actually to be an entrepreneur from an early age. My family were always, my parents were always working really hard, and they didn't have a lot of free time. So I end up in this position surprisingly, especially in a tech field where I was not so interested in an early age, I would say. Let's say I came to Switzerland 11 years ago. It's a bit a strange story. I came here to Switzerland because I have a Swiss passport and I could actually play for the Swiss national team in baseball. And then I loved Zurich so much and I decided to stay here in Switzerland. I moved on with my career and I did several different jobs. And one day, actually, my company where I was working, which is a tech company, sent me to an hackathon organized by Six. My job in this hackathon was, of course, not coding. I'm not a coder. Was actually to recruit good developers for my company, for the company where I was working for. And there were different workshops. Had an inspiration to create Billte. The first idea of Billte was really welcomed by Six, and they invited me to several different meetings further. And they also, after the third meeting, they asked, hey, why you didn't join the F10, this incubator series, the program for startup in Switzerland? And my first reaction was like, no, thank you. I have a job. I'm not interested in this. So I tried to fight. The willingness to become an entrepreneur at the way.
So pretty much you can say that it came to you, right? So
yes,
okay.
Actually it came to me. And then I thought a bit further, and I thought, okay, why not? Let's give it a try. I'm still young, but of course, my idea of incubator accelerator was completely different. So okay, let's apply anyway. There are 3,000 applications. They will never take me. So let's do a random application. I did actually a random application. The problem is that after 3,000, I went down to the top 100. And then after the top 100, I went to the top 50. And in the top 50, you need to have a team with you. So you need to have already a formed team to apply to the FTN, and I had nobody. So I was like, okay, now I have to find somebody that work with me on this.
Now that you're on the boat, you need to find a team
exactly,
to help you out.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now this thing is getting real. So I have to find people around me that could support me with this project. And then I found some people to work with, and we applied, and we were successfully accepted in the FTN. Now, as I said, my idea of this incubator accelerator program and startups in general it was really, really, really naive, So I thought, okay, I complete this program, and then I would be like the next Elon Musk, and I don't have to worry about the job. my company is going to be skyrocketing. The truth actually was completely different. so I complete the program. And after that, I had to go through a long process to actually get the first customers. I have to go through a long process to get the first funding round. This is actually always a bit complicated in the beginning. A lot of people say they are early stage founders, but in the end, you always have to show some revenue, a little bit of revenue. So early stage doesn't mean that they accept you without actually showing some revenue, some market case that makes sense. Unless maybe you're Elon Musk, then probably, if you see actually Tesla going down, but still up.
Even though you're down, you're
correct.
Still up. Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm just born the same day as Elon Musk, so the similarity is only about that. So
this tiny, exactly, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, so that's actually was a bit how I started, where I went through actually the entire process of talking to different type of investors, make sure my product would be a market fit. So I had first prove that my product was not just a nice idea, but it was actually something that customer would like to have and to use.
Right. So pretty much when you came up with the idea, of course you had to work through. So what I understand, you had to work through it to make it marketable, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also had to pivot several times. My initial idea was more actually for the private customers, so not companies. And then I realized, at least in our case, that the money would have come more to financial institutions like banks and small and medium enterprise. Okay. So that I have to pivot a bit the idea to make it something that would actually generate revenue.
Right. So let's go back a little bit, because I really, I know your story, and I really liked it, and this is why we wanted to share it with everybody. So explain to us a little bit, what was the initial idea, and then how it became Billte of today.
So my initial idea is actually, so one of the workshops organized by SIX at this hackathon was actually the future of billing and invoicing. And I just participate in this workshop because I hate invoicing in general. Because normally at my house, I used to actually pile up a stack of paper, and then to pay this invoice was always a bit, I was always forgetting to pay them in time and things like that.
All right. So
my first idea was actually, okay, this could be something interesting to actually make sure that I get well organized with my invoicing, and I make sure that I don't forget them and I can pay them in time. So the first idea was really like on the private person, but then I saw that on the market there were several solutions for the private people. One of these actually is promoted by SIX itself. It's called e-bill. So there were already solutions to actually help private customers to actually pay their invoices. And what I saw is that actually private customer would not actually pay for this because it's not something that it's really it's really mandatory for the private customer to have, right?
Right.
So they don't feel so much the pain of actually being organized with their invoice, right? And if they do, they actually would use e-bill, which is already in the market since a long time. So then I have to pivot a bit the idea. I saw that actually still for a small and medium enterprise, but also for large enterprise, it's billing. It's a process that it's complicated. And together with billing is also payments, right? How you actually receive payments, how you actually reconcile the payments, how you actually execute payments. So I enter in this fair and I've discovered a really interesting word for me. I mean, I've always been a curious person. So I find out that this word is extremely interesting. There are actually a lot of new technology coming up. There is a lot of process that can be optimized. And now the problem was, or the challenge was actually how do you make sure you can cover small and medium enterprise and at the same time large corporate, right? So we have to actually create two products from the beginning. One product is actually a collection of APIs for large enterprise. Mm-hmm. And the other product was actually a white label solution that we sell to banks. And banks subsequently actually give to their small and medium enterprise. By doing this, of course, I mean, creating two, of course, there are some similarities, but creating two different products from start, it's quite challenging. But we thought, okay, the market needs is there, and we have to actually try now or right. Never. Mm-hmm. So we actually decided to focus on both, and we were able to actually go live with the first bank, which is the Cantonal Bank of Ticino for the small and medium enterprise. And we were able to actually work with some large companies for the invoicing and reconciliation of payments part via APIs.
Okay. So in this order of ideas, pretty much what do you think were the key resources that you needed to become independent with this brand new idea, to experiment a little bit with that idea besides the incubation programs and stuff? So
first of all, really important key, but I think actually it is not a big surprise for anyone. It's team. I mean, you have to have a good team, mm-hmm. good group of people that actually could support you in your trip going forward. And I had to go through different paths. I didn't find immediately the right team, the right group of people with who I could work well with. And then finally, when I started restructuring a bit the team, I started to find to ask people with who I work with to work together with me in this project. Now, this actually is really important. I think if I might give any suggestion, is to actually make sure you don't ask your friends or just your friends to work with you. Ask to people that you work with to work with you. Because one thing is actually work with friends where, I mean, friendship is great. You can actually, one thing is actually being friends, and one thing actually being friends and work together. That's a bit more complicated, I would say. If you never work with your friend and you don't know how he reacts on certain things, or how he handles or she handles certain things, it's really difficult to actually work together with, right? With these people. So it's better that you actually find someone with who you work with and you like to work with, and that's actually was one of the key components to actually be where we are right now.
And did you have to find experts on the field of payments, or were you did you understood payments, to the point where you could create something like this? Or did you go and find people who were experts that could help you out in creating this company?
Not really. I actually found, I would say, a mix. The most thing I look at was actually I tried to hire a really intelligent person. I mean, that's the
smartest thing to do.
You have to have like you have to be surrounded with really intelligent people, and I always think they are more intelligent than me. So actually, it's really important that you hire people that you consider extremely intelligent to have a successful company. I believe, you know, and then I look, of course, at their background. So they have a background in banking, in data analysis, and one is a mathematician, one is actually a marketing expert. So actually I look for people that could complete what I could bring, right? So it was really important that everyone would add different pieces to the story, and everybody would be actually complementary, right? Like we would together, we would complete each other.
Right. So if you look back, how long did it take you to achieve success today?
I mean, success is a huge word, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's a very complex one as well. But
really
or maybe before asking that, what is success to you?
Well, that's a really good question. To be honest, I don't have a straightforward answer to this question. Mm-hmm. What I can say that I was never so interested. I mean, success for me is actually staying well with people around me, and I consider me a successful person because I married a wonderful wife, so I have good friends. I have good friends around me. So that's actually what for me is success. It's not necessarily related to work. Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is, for me, it's really important is when I start something, it's really hard for me to give up. I don't start a lot of things. I have to be honest. I'm normally, I used to be normally an extremely lazy person. So I don't start a lot of things. But when I start something, it's really hard for me to give up. And then I always push it forward.
Well, but that's one of
kind of a sustainability, but which is different of success, actually.
Right. So but that's one of the key things in order to achieve success, whatever that concept might be, to be resilient and to keep going forward in order to succeed, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, to have a sustainable company, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily successful for me, but that's only my thought, of course.
Okay.
For me, it's more a challenge with myself. That I started something, and I have to have something that is sustainable.
Exactly. That looks pretty success to me. that looks really good.
I study literature and philosophy, this camp.
Yeah, that's where it comes.
This time.
So going back to the other question, so pretty much if you look back throughout these 7 years that you mentioned, and all the steps you took in order to achieve this sustainable business, what would you recommend other entrepreneurs that are trying to, take off their businesses, or they even have an idea that they don't know how to, they think they have a nice idea or a bright idea, but they need the tools to take it to the next level and become a business or a sustainable business? Now that we're not saying success, but yes, sustainability is pretty much success for many.
So in my opinion, so it's really hard for me to actually give a recommendation or suggestion, because I believe that everyone needs to find their path. So I'm not a big fan of people that say, hey, to actually be successful with your startup, you have to do this, you have to do that. That's, for me, it's that's zero value, to be honest. Everyone actually have to find their own way to actually reach success with their startup, if they want to have a startup. What I can say on my side, what play big roles is, as I said before, a team. Of course, that's extremely important to have a team with who you can work well together with. Mm-hmm. And the second part is you first need to think about, I mean, we are living in Switzerland here, okay? Switzerland is an extremely wealthy country, okay? And the unemployment rate is extremely low. And normally the salary are really high for any kind of job, right? So you need to make sure that you really want to do your own business. You need to make sure, and sometimes you have to fight with yourself, you know, because it's so easy. It's the alternative. It's so easy, you know. I mean, next to you, there are people that are giving you a lot of money to actually work for them, right?
Right.
So I would say, if you're in Switzerland or in any wealthy country, you need to make sure it's something you really want. You need to actually talk with if you have a family. If you are young out of university, that's easier, I would say. But if you have already a family, you need to first talk to your partner and make sure that's a decision that would make sense for both of you. Because of course you would when you start, you would earn actually less money than when you're actually working, right? At least in Switzerland. I don't know actually in other countries, but I can tell you in Switzerland it's for sure like this. So my first suggestion is always don't do it.
Andrea, come on! There's people here trying to, you know, interested about.
No, like it's always
don't
do it. But if you really want to do it, make sure to push it forward. And there are going to be a lot of hard times, but when the good times come, those are fantastic. I mean, it's like climbing a mountain, right? When you reach the top, you feel like the king of the world, and it's kind of the same with your own company, right?
Right. So today, if you think about it, where is Billte today? Because we've talked about your idea and how it progressed into be a sustainable business, but now where is Billte today that we can say, yeah, of course, look everything you've achieved.
Yeah, sure. We are in a growing phase, right? So lots of things on the market are coming our way. I wouldn't actually start explaining why, but there are actually a lot of constellation of things that are coming our way currently. We were able to, first of all, go live with our first bank customers and reaching around 150 small and medium enterprise already since September. And so there is actually an interest in what we are doing, which is actually the most important thing. And we were so, I would say, this project was so successful that the bank also decided to invest in us. So this actually was also something really important for us to receive a second investment, and even better because it comes from one of our first customer, which was interested in the solution. So this for us was extremely important. Something that is interesting that this bank never invested in any startup before. So we are their first investment in a startup. So this actually makes, of course, me and my team really proud of, and give us a lot of responsibility, to be honest.
Yeah, but of course you're open. Also, you're innovating into this field that it can lead others to come in an industry that maybe like you said, it's the first startup that the bank was invested in. So you can see also that it's your journey has also opened the road for other people as well that want to do the same. So that's good. That's something you can celebrate.
Good.
All right. Okay, let me just check. Oh, sorry, I was in mute. Sorry. Does anybody have questions for Andrea regarding his journey, or any type of questions by now?
Yes, please. Hello, I'm Ali. I'm a software engineer from Egypt. I'm founder of Economic Gym. It's a new service that handles the relationship between gyms and their customers. It's something like CRM and channel marketing to reach their segments. Actually, I'm still in the prototype. It's MVP, minimum viable product. But I have an issue with the payment method. Actually, I don't like to take any commission from the fees. I'd like to offer a free service because I'm aiming to domain the market. Everyone he'd like to exercise or go to the gym, he will use my app. Then I will use my service as advertising channels for other products and the offer of specific gym. Okay, he will use my service instead of Facebook or other social media. Okay, he will use my service as to post their campaign. And I don't know how to do that because the government here will calculate how much I earn from the customers. Okay, it's one membership for many gyms. Okay, and I don't like. I'm just a exchanger point without any fees. I don't gain anything from this service. Okay, I will gain from other things. How to do that, I don't know.
These are good questions. First of all, I don't think I can give you an answer because I don't know the regulation in Egypt. You are in Egypt, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So for different countries, there are different regulations. What I can tell you is that nobody actually like to pay the fees. So the payment fees. So it's not an unknown problem or an unknown issue. There are alternative with, for example, bitcoins or this kind of like crypto values that you actually could imply. But really, this is actually something that you would need to actually ask first to an expert lawyer in regulation to know what kind of regulation there are in your country. Because for me, it's really hard to actually give a suggestion about what kind of solution you can apply there. This is on the payment side. I mean, there is a chance that you can always become a bank and have a banking license, and then of course you can avoid the commission fees, right? But this is actually, of course, will cost a lot of money. So.
Yes, and I have to deposit amount of money to be legal as authentication fees.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So I'm looking for an investor to.
Maybe
can.
A good idea would be to actually look into cryptocurrencies. I know there are some payment methods there that could be interesting, but again, I really don't know the regulation in your country, so I cannot tell if this is something that could be legal for you. For example, I know cryptocurrency in Asia and in China are completely illegal, right? So I wouldn't suggest you to actually try to actually use cryptocurrency now, and then you might end up in jail. So please look,
not. Yeah.
Please not look with an advisor that knows actually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. We also have another question from James Sanders. He asks and also if anybody has another question, they can write it on the chat and I can just read it to Andrea. So James is asking, how do you find the right co-founders? What should you look for in a co-founding partner? Where can you look? Maybe explain a little bit of your personal journey if possible.
Yes, this is actually something that I have to learn along the way. I've always been like a really sociable person. So for me, it was always kind of easy to get along with people. But then I realized that actually working together with people when actually you're working for your own company, it's completely different than actually working together with people in a company where you're employed with, right? So I had to, what I look for is actually, as I said before, I look for people that actually complete me. So I have different type of skills, and normally also different type of backgrounds. Now, this is actually sometimes complicated, because if you look for people that are completely different from you, you will have a lot of discussion as well, right? But I found that this discussion are healthy, and this discussion actually could bring you further in developing your startup and make it a sustainable business. Because if you actually start to actually look around for people that are always thinking alike you, then you will never see actually mistakes. You will never see possible new issues. So that was what I would say. Like, I always look for people that are completely different from me. They have a different background, and they can complete my skills.
All right, thank you, James. We also have another question from Christopher Barnes. Andrea, I'm working at UBS Asset Management, and I understand that you are an elite athlete. So I wanted to know what skills you take from that to be on the innovative side.
Well, thanks a lot, Chris. Chris is actually my coach in the national team, so.
Oh, that's why. That's not the question. All right.
Thanks a lot for asking this question. So, actually, I have to say, like, for me, baseball was an extremely great. I don't know if all sport is like this. For me, I would say so. For me, baseball though was actually extremely important during my life. First of all, it let me understand how other people think. Baseball is a sport that actually where you have to play with different type of people, different type of culture. So this actually helped me a lot to understand and try to understand other people that are different from me. This is actually the first decade I would say was really important for me. In general, it's the grit, right? When you play a sport and you actually play at a competitive level, you always wanted to win, right? So what you do is actually you always try to train hard to reach some goals. You always try to not to lose, right? So you do everything what is in your capability to actually get better day by day. And this is what I actually brought into my startups, because what I do, I always try to get better day by day. Nobody's perfect. You always actually make a lot of mistakes. And so you have to make sure that you learn from those mistakes. And this comes from sport for me, because I mean, daily when you were training or when you play, you do lots of mistakes, right? But then you always try to be better the next game. And I try to do the same with my startup. And keep pushing forward. That's also important.
Yeah, that's important as well. So you also mentioned that when you said that you play baseball, you play professional baseball?
I used to play in Australia and in Italy and different countries. So I actually travel around the world. That was actually really, for me, was actually enlightening, I have to say.
That's nice. All right. Do we have any more questions for Andrea regarding his baseball life, or but mostly with Billte in his journey innovating? Let's just wait. And if anybody has a question, you can either unmute yourself or just add it in the chat.
I have a question. Or something that's perhaps interesting to share. So we already mentioned at the beginning that we know Andrea from the garage, and he's working with HITS together. So perhaps you can tell a bit more what you can recommend about the working, not infrastructure, but how you suggest to find a place for a startup to work, because I guess a lot of startups, they start at a kitchen table or at home in the cellar, but why you do something like that, or why you can recommend also a place like that?
I'm currently at the kitchen table, so I'm working from home, of course, like everyone.
Like everybody, I'm in my bedroom, so it's okay.
I'm currently at the kitchen table. Now, in general, I think like we are working. We are extremely separate, like, so we are not all the time in the office. I personally like to go to the office, and when I go to the office, what I like the most is actually that around me I have a group of different companies, different startups that have maybe the same issue that I have, or they solved some of the issue that I had. So there is this networking that help to actually push forward certain topics. So for me, as I said before, it's really important to actually learn from the others, listen to the others. So if you have a working environment that could actually facilitate this exchange of information or exchange of experience, this for me the most important thing. I would say like a place like the garage where actually HITS is located and we are located, it's fantastic because you have on one side you have the startups and we are actually in the same boat. So there is a lot of exchange. On the other side, there is actually the innovation team of the innovation arm of Generali Switzerland. So also there you actually have the experience of the large corporate that could actually help you in solving some of the issue or giving you some great suggestion. And on the other side, you have free beers. So that's also helping you to actually get inspired, I would say. Yeah.
A little bit more.
We have to say just in the evening, not always in the evening.
Yeah.
Not that we have a wrong...
No problem, no problem. Only after 12, only after 12.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, Doris. Juliet also has another question here in the chat. So she asks, when you started your company, did you keep your job on the side or did you quit right away to work only on your project?
I quit right away. As I said, like if I start something, I want to do it 100%. I think if you actually start your own business, I don't know, from my experience, actually, if you start your own business, you have to keep right away to make sure that you only focus on that. It would for me it worked out. It worked out. Was not a really easy decision because of course it takes some time before I actually could pay a salary for myself, a normal salary. So it's not an easy decision. I would say think about it a lot, but for me actually there was no choice. I wanted to actually make it fully, and so I decided to actually quit my job immediately.
Well, there's a lot of people that have in other industries as well, that they say that when they started, they didn't have a plan B. So that was the only focus they had. And that's why they were successful at the end, because that was the only, focus on their mind. There was no plan B whatsoever. All right. Thank you.
I suggest also to have a plan B, C, and D.
yeah, I'm just trying to be a little bit, like philosophical, maybe.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Juliet.
The plan B of Andrea was to go back to gastronomy and selling beer.
Yeah, exactly. That's.
All right. Does anybody has another question for Andrea?
I'd have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey. Go ahead. Hi.
Hey, Andrea, thank you for the talk. So I'm also part of a startup, and one of the things that are challenging to me is focus. So you speak with clients. One client wants development in this direction, another one in another direction. You mentioned that you killed the golden goose of going to retail customers and going to companies. So how do you prioritize? How do you decide what you spend your time on and what do you not do?
So I think every business is different, but for me, what worked, I would say, in the beginning, if you're a really early stage startup, you think every meeting is important. You think every person with who you might actually talk could actually lead to a project. And this is actually extremely difficult because then you lose focus, a lot of focus, right? So what I start doing is actually ditching either topics or ditching either meetings, so that I can focus more on the day-to-day business and actually to grow the product. Because what I found out is that in the beginning, I went to 1,000 meetings, with investors, with possible clients, and at the same time, I had to actually work on my day-to-day business as much as you, I believe. And this was actually, I was working like 24 hours, and I was not focused on anything. So I was not able to complete anything because everything looked so important to me. So what I start doing is like I start analyzing, okay, and divide my day in the slots. I would say, okay, in the morning I work on my day-to-day task, and my day-to-day task for today, and I have to complete this, is A, B, and C. But I work this on in the morning, and in the afternoon I keep it for meetings. Okay, but also in the meetings I start to actually look, okay, this is actually the third meeting that we have. We didn't reach anything, so I'll stop it. Okay, I don't go forward with this in this way. I just drop these meetings and I focus on others that might be more productive. This is working for me. Is an ongoing challenge, I have to be honest. I mean, it's not something that I can say I solved it. No, I didn't. But this helped me to actually work more concretely on the day-to-day task, right? And be more focused. One thing I suggest is like, a lot of people like to talk to startups. Like if you actually work with the clients, right? A lot of clients like to hear you, but sometimes they use you as a consultant, as a free consultant. So make sure to don't give 2 meetings. 2 meetings are okay, but the third one should be paid. Otherwise, you actually work as a free consultant, and consultants are really well paid in Switzerland. So.
Okay. So pretty much overall is know your worth, and your time is, it's, of course, time is money, I guess.
Yeah. Or you have to convert it in money, otherwise.
Right.
I always like to take coffee and drink coffee like this, but at some point some money needs to come, right? So.
Exactly.
Thank you. I didn't hear a lot about the beer enjoyment in the evening, but I guess that's one of the meetings.
Yes, that's one of them. It was a really important meeting,
Thank you so much for your question. Okay, the floor is open. If anybody else has another question, feel free to ask Andrea.
Actually, it's not enough this meeting. Could you post your contacts, LinkedIn or anything, just to reach you later if we have any question?
Sure. No problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks.
I can add it here to the chat later on. Okay, so we have another question. Joanna is, okay, Andrea, thank you for the inspirational speech. Cool. Could you please share if you work only with internal resources, employees, or you're open to deal with consultants as well?
Well, one of our investors is a consultancy firm, so we are actually I'm also working with the consultants as well. But I have to say, first you have to structure your internal resources, and I work mainly with our internal resources now. I don't work a lot with external resources because it's important for me that to structure the company, to have actually a well-organized organization, also in order to actually in the future maybe to work with external resources. But my main goal in the beginning is actually to work with internal resources and find internal resources.
All right, thank you. All righty. She says thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, answering all these questions is really an eye-opener for everyone. So the more questions you can ask at the time, it's I think we're gonna get the most of Andrea's as well. Peek inside your brain. So feel free
with
to ask.
small gnats around. So like,
Yeah, Andrea, another question from my side. So we know that a lot of startups, they fail after a certain period. So sometimes it's even 80% mentioned or something like that. And what would you say about, and perhaps it's also in these times, a lot of people are asking that themselves, what would you say it's the right moment to found an own business? So perhaps from a personal side, but also from a economic side. I know it's always the answer, there is no right time, but perhaps you can at least mention things or times that you shouldn't choose to found a startup.
I think this question is also related where you are from and where you're living. Okay, if you live in Switzerland or in another wealthy country, I think the best way to start a startup is straight out of university. What I think it would be difficult is when you actually have a family and when you have maybe like kids already, because it's in a startup, as I said, you actually have to make your way through. So of course you have a lot of instability. You have a lot of not well paid job in the beginning, right? So I would say personally, I wouldn't start if you have kids, because this is actually something. The family balance, I think, is more important than the business balance, at least for me. So I would start actually straight out of university when your brain is fresh, when you have time to dedicate to your own company, and not when you have already established something. Unless of course you have a lot of savings somehow, or you can actually have you have the opportunity to actually not earning from certain years. That's my suggestion.
Is there, and this is a question that I just popped my mind. If you're beginning creating your company like a startup and everything, where does the investors part begin? Is it like right away, or you need to begin with something and then the investors will come?
It depends a bit of from you, and it depends also from the type of startup you're creating, right? If you're creating something in the research field that actually to keep moving forward with the research, you need a lot of funds, then you have to ask them to jump on board immediately. If you're creating something more like my startup, first you have to prove that there is a market fit.
Right.
You have to prove that there is a bit of generation of money. Because first, I don't think you will find the investors. Second, if you find investors, they might want to actually take a huge cut of your business, right? Then it's up to you to decide if it's acceptable or not.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay. Let's just see if anybody else have another question for Andrea. All righty. Okay, so I think we're awesome here. Thank you so much, Andrea. I would like to ask people if they would like this. It's always cool to have like a photo of the meeting. So if whoever wants to open their camera and join the photo, I'm just gonna click here to have a view of everybody. Okay, I can see people now. Yay. All righty. Okay, so here we go. This is nicer when I see people's faces. Okay, are we ready?
Share the photo, please.
Yes, of course, I'll share. Let's just wait for everybody to get their cameras, whoever wants. Yeah, I can see people smiling. All right, we're ready. And 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Thank you so much. I'll share the photo, of course. So, okay, so thank you so much, Andrea, for such a great talk. I think this type of conversations help a lot of people who want to go through the same journey or on the same journey. And for us, it's always, you're more than welcome to open the conversation and invite as many people as you want.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for joining, and thanks everybody who took the time and have a coffee with us on this Friday. We will keep sharing this space for you to come and join us. So just click on our meetup group and on our LinkedIn profile so you'll know what other events are coming. We have a bunch of ideas for you. So thank you, Andrea, again, and everybody.
And we will send you some beer.
Yes, we will. Yes, the beer is coming.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, we will also publish this conversation in case you would like to rerun it or just share it with your friends, and we'll put it up there on social media.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the weekend.